This is more proof that women are the class enemy of man. As Mr. Pink and Yellow has pointed out, they are the class enemy of man. Men are the inventors of the world, period, of their effort and their know-how and their drives. And women have used it and enjoyed it. And what do? They lie about it and say that men stole from them. Now, I'll show this disgusting short. Good thing it is short. And then I'm going to show you a video debunking it. And of course, this article, Voice for Men, was also debunks this. Now, luckily, it's only about a minute long. So we'll hear this liar here tell that all this bullshit, all these lies that men stole from women.
Lamar is the one who invented the technology for Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, but she only got taken seriously when she started working with George and Theo. Marianne Donovan invented diapers, but Victor Mills stole her idea and went on to create Pampers. Rosalind Franklin is the one who discovered the structure of DNA. Watson and Crick won a Nobel Prize for the research. Elizabeth Mackey invented the monopoly.
Okay, she's going to go on and on here, but I want you to start off with which was here. This woman here. This is bullshit. And we'll go to Cotaine's video. This is an old MGTOW from way back when. His most recent video is probably 5 years old now. He debunks it. So let's hear a debunking of this lie.
It's International Women's Day. Let's start by talking about Rosalind Franklin. Franklin was the lady genius who single-handedly discovered DNA. Her work was then maliciously stolen by two men named James Watson and Francis Crick, who took credit for all of her work and robbed her of the Nobel Prize. Hashtag smash the patriarchy, hashtag oppressed women of history. I mean, it really does sound fucking awful when you put it like that, and it would be awful if any of it were actually true. The actual progression of historical events is somewhat more complicated than the tired old man bad, woman good, patriarchal oppression narrative that we're fed by the pro-feminist mainstream. I'm going to condense a lot of history here, but to start with, let's just get this minor issue out of the way first. Franklin did not discover DNA. Neither did Watson and Crick. Towards the last third of the 19th century, Friedrich Nietzsche had discovered a microscopic substance which he called nuclein, and
another man, of course,
eventually managed to isolate a pure sample of what we now call DNA. In 1878, Albrecht Kossel successfully isolated the 5 nucleobases that ultimately made up RNA and DNA.
Another man, thank you.
In 1889...
Hey, where are all these women, that involved themselves? Where are they?
Friedrich Nietzsche's pupil, Richard Altman, coined
another man, here we go.
Nucleic acid. Time progressed and so did the science. In 1919, biochemist Phobos Lavina suggested that...
Another man? Oh my God.
DNA consisted of a string of these nucleotide units linked together to form a chain along a sugar phosphate backbone. In 1927, Nikolai Koltsov proposed...
Oh my God. Like, when are these women going to step up? These freaking leeches.
Traits would be inherited via a giant hereditary molecule made up of 2 mirror strands that would replicate in a semi-conservative fashion, using each strand as a template. And in 1937, William Osterbury produced the first X-ray diffraction patterns showing that DNA had a regular structure.
Hey, I lost count of how many men are involved in the creation of our knowledge of DNA. Again, women aren't stopped from doing anything. That's a bold-faced lie.
You'll note here that Rosalind Franklin was not even the first person to produce X-ray images of DNA, but I digress. By the time the King's College DNA research team, which included Franklin, Watson, and Crick, was assembled, the issue was not the discovery of DNA or the component-based pairs that made it up, or even the understanding that it was the most likely candidate to explain the transference of heritable traits between organisms and their offspring. What they were working towards at that point was a fully fleshed out functional model of the giant hereditary molecule itself. Watson and Crick started working on their model together in late 1951, meaning that by early 1953, when fellow King's College researcher Maurice Wilkins committed the professional faux pas of privately showing Watson a high-quality X-ray diffraction image from Franklin's lab, infamously known as Photo 51, Watson and Crick already had a theoretical, albeit flawed, working model of DNA.
Yeah, they were already working on it. By the way, this is a spoiler alert because it comes at 6:50, where it mentions that this woman is the one who stole, not them. She stole from the man who was working underneath her.
To the extent that their work was based on her findings, they did not simply up and steal her shit. Photo 51 helped them to adjust the working model that they had already been developing for over a year and a half. And despite this professional faux pas on the part of Wilkins, as well as the less than amicable professional relationship between Watson and Franklin, their research and development did not happen behind Franklin's back. It was in fact Franklin herself who personally told Watson and Crick that based on her X-ray diffraction images, the sugar phosphate backbone of the nucleotide chain had to be on the outside of the helix, not the inside. All of this ultimately culminated in the Watson and Crick article, A Structure for Deoxyribose Nucleic Acid, published alongside 5 other papers from the King's College DNA research team, including Franklin's, in the April 1953 issue of the journal Nature. In that publication, Watson and Crick's article made direct references to Franklin's article, citing it as some of the experimental data that underpinned their theoretical model.
Ha! These guys even gave her the credit where she actually did something. And this is why I say that women are the class enemy of men. I agree with Mr. Pinkenyaw. Men love women. Men support women in every arena. They like the idea of a woman being equal to them and contributing equally, right? And they'll brag up women's achievements. And this is proof of it. And what do women do? Instead of taking the meager crumbs they actually deserve, they turn around and bold-faced lie about it to attack men.
Over the next several years, Watson and Crick continued to develop their DNA model further, ultimately transforming it into what we know today as the scientific field of molecular biology. The public turning point was Francis Crick's famous 1957 lecture laying out the central dogma of molecular biology, in which DNA creates RNA and RNA creates proteins. Final confirmation of the replication mechanism that was implied by the double helical structure followed in 1958 through the Michelson-Stahl experiment. Meanwhile, in that same year, Rosalind Franklin passed away due to cancer. Finally considered...
Yeah, notice she's not... Next 5 years, she didn't do anything.
A fully fledged scientific theory backed by sufficient experimental research, Watson, Crick, and Wilkins were ultimately awarded the 1962 Nobel Prize for Physiology or Medicine. The order of those last few events is a rather important piece in this story, at least for the way it's told by feminists. Assuming that Photo 51 even did represent enough of a contribution to the final scientific theory that Watson and Crick developed, a claim that I personally find dubious, Franklin still wasn't cheated out of a Nobel Prize. The rules for the Nobel Prize explicitly stipulates that it is only awarded to living persons, not given posthumously.
And I would argue that even if it was given posthumously, this woman had a very, very, very meager contribution to it. Not enough that she should be concluded.
It was undoubtedly Watson and Crick who spent a decade developing the theoretical model for DNA, as well as the whole new scientific field of molecular biology. To the extent that Franklin's X-ray diffraction photo helped their work, she was more than adequately credited, There is certainly no basis to claim that Franklin was the mastermind behind the theory of DNA who had her work stolen as part of some patriarchal conspiracy. In fact, this is where we get to what I think is the most interesting and neglected little fact about the entire Rosalind Franklin mythos as told.
Be ready for it. What did I just tell you about? Right here.
By the feminist mainstream. You see, photo 51, the X-ray diffraction image at the heart of this entire scientific controversy, was actually taken by Franklin's very male PhD student, Raymond Gosling. Yes, you heard that correctly. Franklin didn't even take the fucking photo. The only thing she took was the credit as Raymond Gosling's PhD supervisor.
Aha! Amazing. Amazing, isn't it, everyone? This woman is the actual thief for the little tiny bit of contribution she put into this. And they gave her what credit was due to her. But this guy is a complete unknown to me, right? He was the one who was this whole idea that, like that old movie, right? I'm trying to remember the name of it. But the idea of it that there are these women that work under a male boss and he steals all their ideas. Here it is here, the reverse. This is what actually goes on. And to be honest, women do nothing but steal from men anyway, on every level, not just our inventions, right? This woman is a complete liar. Feminists are liars. If you want to know if they're lying, they're speaking. That's how you know. Now, we'll take a look at this article from Voice of Men. Women inventors. Voice for Men do a lot of stupid things like misspell women. You know, that's very lame, okay? Here is someone making an excuse, a woman, of course. It's hard to invent things when people forbid you from going to school, which is untrue. Little girls have gone to school along with boys since forever. Good God, man, women only got to vote early last year. We know that's all bullshit. The vote has nothing to do with women's inventiveness, or in this case, lack thereof. Women cannot even file patents because of their gender. I don't believe that at all. So they would have to file them under husbands' names. This is bullshit, okay? Bullshit. So they burst their bubble. He says first education has absolutely nothing to do with being inventive. And for example, where concerns invention, considering the following. Thomas Edison, arguably the best inventor in world history, was homeschooled in the early years by his mother and had very little formal education. Benjamin Franklin had 1 year of college. The son of a poor soap maker, he could not afford more than a year of school. The Wright brothers never went past high school. And please consider this blurb from the online bio of Henry Ford. He attended school until age 15, at which time he developed a dislike of farm life and a fascination for machinery. Yes, he had a fascination for machinery, which women lack altogether. You might be able to scrub up some female mechanics, but they don't have the fascination of the machinery. He had little interest in school and was a poor student. He never learned to spell or read well. Ford would write using only simplest sentence. He instead preferred to work with mechanical objects, particularly watches. He repaired his first watch when he was 13 years old and would continue to repair watches for enjoyment throughout his life. See, guys enjoy doing this. Although he did not like working on the farm, he did learn that there was great value in hard work and responsible. Yeah, whatever. Right? Exactly. So he said, I went scouring the net for the accomplishments of the great women inventors of history. And lo and behold, I found a list of magnificent inventions, courtesy of the fair sex, right? Most of the sites and forums housing the list had cute little accompanying remarks like all the inventions men have women to thank for, right? But there was a slight problem. Almost none of the information on the list was accurate. And some of it was outright fabricated. To put it more succinctly, the list of females' inventions was an invention of itself. Exactly. Because this woman is a liar. And why do they lie? Because they hate men. This is an attack on men that's been going on for decades and decades. This is what women feel. There's no group of women slamming this woman back. They're either attacking men or they're enabling it, right? Now they show a list of what this list of female inventions, right? And you'll notice they'll have BS, partial to BS, or verified. Notice that some of them are verified. So when men see that women have actually invented something, they give them credit like they always do, like we always do. And you see, there's a lot of BS. There's more BS than verifies, right? So, of course, it's just lies, okay? I searched quite a bit for the support for the claim that a battery container was invented by Nancy Perkins, 1986. I found references to it aplenty. All of them were versions of the original list, and none of them were source or cited. Of course they were, right? So I can't say that Nancy didn't invent a battery container for certain. Still, the only source I ever saw was on the list. I don't even know what kind of container she invented. Did she invent a box for a battery, and so on and such. So I will put in the full video of Colt Haynes for you guys to watch, okay? And I'll include this article from Voice for Men. And of course, I'll include this video of this disgusting person, this disgusting, man-hating liar. Know it, guys. The average woman does not like men. The average woman lives her wonderful life off of the efforts of men and the love of men. And they spit in men's faces in return. Know it.